Hey all, it's me again. First of all, let me apologize for the quality of my recording. Everything got knocked over, so my microphone broke. I'm using my spare microphone off my Oculus headset, so hopefully you can hear me well. So I wanted to do another chess video for today, and today I was just playing. I was playing a lot of speed chess. I was just doing the 3-minute game. It's no real big deal. There's no pressure, but there is, by all means, there is still a little bit of time pressure. There is. As you can see, I got down to 46 seconds and him 56 seconds. In this particular game, it brings up the point that if you play an opening and you're going to make it your opening, so every time you play black or white, that's going to be your opening. It's kind of important that you know your own opening and how to play against it, and so if anyone plays against you with your opening, then you know how to play against it and how to beat it, and that's exactly what happened in this particular game. They play my bishop's opening. To be honest, not very many people would do this, but I am glad that he did, because it proves the point that the f7 and the f2 squares are the weakest points on the game or on the board before any piece has even moved. So let's go ahead and go through it. He plays e4, e5, bishop, bishop. So we're going toe for toe, move for move, because we're going to go ahead and play our openings. He took my bishop, which I didn't expect, because most people wouldn't do it. Sometimes you don't take, like, the best thing that I could have done is just move the king to f8, and the bishop becomes a pawn. Because you bring the check and the sacrificing of you win the pawn, and it just looks dangerous, and it can be dangerous. This variation, when you take the bishop, it leads to swapping the queens off the board. So he does that. I move back. It's important not to go to e7. You don't want to get stuck in the middle. He takes a pawn. I take the opportunity to go in and take the f2 pawn. Check. He did the opposite and didn't take. He did what I probably should have done. But the fact that I took the bishop allows me to force the exchange of queens. He goes ahead and checks, thinking that he's going to win the bishop. Knight here. He doesn't want to exchange the queens. He wants to keep the queen on the board. Because when you do this type of style of play, you want all the attacking power you can possibly get. Now, the move I chose is okay. I could have just taken the pawn and, made it even. But I just did this, and I basically forced the exchange. And protect the bishop at the same time. I'm going to lose a piece, but I should have just taken the pawn, then I wouldn't have lost the knight. But I chose this way for a reason. So he opens up the rook file. King goes to e7. Now that both the queens are off the board, and it's relatively safe. His king is on an open file, and it's absolutely imperative that I get a rook onto that file to control it. But I don't want to just go ahead and move the king's rook, because rook would just take the pawn. So I want to connect my rooks. I want to get my queen's rook active and get that into the game. You push the pawn on to activate his bishop. I go ahead and get the knight out. He gets his knight out. and I exposed the attack on the G pawn, which is fine. He's doing the same thing as me. He's activating his, he's just improving his position. But now I'm attacking his knight. A lot of pressure is going on that knight, but it's protected right now, so he doesn't see any potential threat, but he's starting to buckle under the time pressure. He plays that, which is a strange move, to be honest. It is, in this particular instance, it was odd. Really, as white, you really need to get this king off the open file. It's extremely exposed. It's not safe. It's extremely dangerous. So perhaps a move like king e2 to do the exact same thing as me to get the rooks connected. With the king on the back file, the rooks are separated. They're not supporting each other. They're not as strong as they can be. So I go ahead with my plan, and now his knight's pinned. So I could go ahead and attack the pawn if I want, or attack the pinned defender. You know, and there's all sorts I could do. So he pushes rook up, like, and to be honest, I don't think he has a plan. Like, after his attack got rebuffed, and I thwarted his attack because I actually played this opening a lot, so you're not going to beat me with my own opening, put it simply. But he came close to it because I nearly blundered, but now I go ahead and get my knight to the center, and now I got 3 pieces attacking a piece that's pinned and defended only once. Yes, granted, I could have gone ahead and taken that knight and gotten a check, but nothing would have come from it because he would have gone to king e2, and I couldn't do anything because with the second piece taken back, that square now has 2 defenders, not theoretically 1. So with the third piece, I now have a third piece that would support the second once it retakes. So he goes ahead and gets a check. Again, you have to be careful because knights are dangerous. He's going for the c7 square. So he goes ahead and goes to e2. Finally, he does this. He should have done this like 5 moves ago. And got he removed the pin. So now as soon as you do that, you're going to force the exchange. But I go ahead with the rook first, which may surprise people, but there is reason to my manners. He takes with the pawn, check, and then I retake, check. Now you see why I did it. Rook first, because with the check, I win the rook in the corner. And I have the potential check on f3. I've got potential, I have plans, but he doesn't have much of an attack yet. He has potential threats, and he can, if I'm not careful, get behind my defense. He pushes his pawn, which is an absolute waste of move. I'm like, whatever, he can keep coming as far as I'm concerned. He could have taken the pawn. He could have done a lot of things that would have been better than what he did, but pushing that pawn onto a5 like that was an absolute wasted move. So I go ahead and retake and redominate that file. If you have an open file, it's absolutely imperative you put a rook on it, because whoever puts a rook on it first controls that well. If he somehow managed to get the rook to a1 and then to f1, like if you put the rook there, so yeah, instead of pushing the pawn up, put the rook up to a1, attack my bishop. I have to move the bishop, and then he can put the rook to f1, and he controls the file, not me. So he goes ahead and pushes the pawn on again, thinking that, you know, he has a threat. Like if I take, he's gonna take. But no, just because someone offers a piece up doesn't mean you have to take. Oh no, big problem there. So he goes ahead and puts the rook there, thinking he can go ahead and get the c7 pawn. Nuh-uh, pawn up, and there you go. That's my pawn defense, with the king supporting it, the white squares. So my pawns are now making his bishop absolutely useless because they're blocking all the dark squares, and my king is protecting the white square where it possibly could have gotten in. But he doesn't even have a white squared bishop anymore. He goes ahead and puts the pawn up, which is not a bad move. It makes me have to respond. I can't go ahead with my plan because if I did, I would end up losing the piece. So yeah, that was a good move. I responded by going to do the check early. And I go after the rook. And this, I make a mistake up into somewhere around here. So he takes the pawn. That was a mistake. Because, well, I didn't have to take, but I knew. So I'm going to go for the queen. Right now, to be honest, this is when I worked out that he wasn't going to stop me from getting a queen. So I go up here. Because he can get pieces to... The only chance he has to stop me from getting my queen is this square, because it's unprotected by any of my pieces. So even if I have a pawn there, if he recaptures, I don't have anything to recapture with. He would have to put his knight to f4 to guard that h3 square. But if he did that now, he would just lose that knight to my rook. So you've got to guard those squares if you can, like I said. I go ahead, but that he takes the unguarded pawn, which I left unguarded. That was a mistake by me, I guess. And that was a bigger mistake. It's not the first mistake that costs you the game. It's the second and third and fourth mistake that's going to cost you the game. So it's the majority of who makes the most mistakes. So he goes, takes the rook. Now you're black. So this is the position. You have a minute and 15 seconds on the clock. He has a minute and 44. I have 2 pieces and a knight compared to his 2 pieces and a rook. So we're relatively even. Could you win the position here as black? Well, your answer should be yes, because I did. But it is a win for black is obtainable. So I go ahead and push my pawn up. Keep going with your plan. If his move doesn't make you have to respond to his plan, go ahead with yours. He's going with his king. Pawn up, because that h3 square was the important square. It was the only square that my pieces aren't guarding. My knight is guarding h2 and h4. My bishop is guarding h4. As soon as I get my bishop out of the way, it would guard h1 and h3. So I knew now that nothing was going to stop my pawn from getting to the end unless he wants to swap pieces. He goes ahead and puts his rook there. He's going after my bishop, but is protected by my knight. Those knights sure are pesky. h2. And that was a pointless move because queen. To be honest, I really don't know why he did that. Like, again, any move. Let's see what he could have done. Like almost anything was better than what he did. I mean, you can't just let white go ahead and get a queen. You lose. I mean, I got less than a minute on my clock, but I don't need that time. I know how I'm going to beat him. So, let's see. I mean, there was absolutely no reason why he should have lost this game. Because he has a minute and 22. If he just sat and thought a little bit. Let's see, what's a good move for white? Let's flip the board. Let's look at it. Let's look at the position from his angle. Let's see what he was looking at. Putting the knight to g4 is an absolute waste of move. And to be honest, his pieces are absolutely useless. They're not doing anything. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. The only chance he has is getting behind my defense. So I would probably try and... If I was white, I would go for my a7 pawn. He made a huge effort to go and push this pawn all the way to a6 and then just stop because I put my pawn to b6. Big whoop. King here. I don't have to push the pawn on. I have to stop his king from coming back. So that got him a move. No, my bishop wasn't there. So yes, so bishop here to attack my bishop here. Why not? Because I can just get a queen then. But the line of attack that I was thinking for white is that I wanted to get my rook. I wanted to get the rook here, and then I could put the king here. Sacrifice the rook. Pawn takes rook. Pawn up. Or king takes pawn. King to c8, pawn to a7, and there's nothing black could do to stop the pawn getting the queen. So that's the plan that I'm thinking for. Let me see. Just so you guys can see it. No, how can you flip the board on this? So that's if you were looking. Again, that's how you think in chess, but a little bit fast. I slowed it down and I spoke out what I was thinking as I was thinking, so you can understand my process. So we're now back looking at at the position from black's point of view instead of white's. So So white's move is here. Even if I went ahead and got a queen, he would be able to get the king to b7, take the pawn and get the pawn home before my queen or any of my other pieces could do anything to stop it. So because of that immediate threat, I have to respond to that threat and guard this c6 square. Again, it's another square that doesn't have a piece on, but squares are just as important as squares with pieces on it. So, as white, how do we beat black? So you can see what I was thinking before we flip. Forget my bishop was there. Forget my bishop is only one. Right here plays rook to c3. Forget the bishop is at e1. This is just so you can see what I'm trying to do. Black goes here, queen. White goes here. Queen or bishop can go check, so that's not going to work. Alright, so alright, just so you so we found out, or I found out, that the plan that I was thinking for white isn't going to work because white gets mated. But just so you can see what I was thinking on in the lines before we flipped, knight here, rook here, black suddenly becomes stupid. Rook takes pawn, pawn takes rook here, king takes pawn, king to c8, and then pawn to a7, and then no matter what black does, this pawn is coming home and it's an instant check. That was the line of thinking that I went in all of my that I did in all of my head without moving the pieces, and that's what I'm looking at. But haven't gone through it more conclusively, we found out that that plan is bad. So let's get back to it, shall we? So he goes knight g4. Oops. He goes knight to g4. I still say that's a bad move. So instead of knight to g4, absolutely king to b5 was the better move, just because that is a threat that black has to respond to. I didn't see it clearly all the way to the end, and the line of thinking that I saw didn't go all the way through to a victory. But I wouldn't have thought that, and I would still have to have responded. So yeah, he does knight g4. I get the queen. He goes bishop d4, getting his pieces in, but it's immaterial. After getting the queen on the board again, he's lost. Queen to check. King to b3. Knight takes d4, check. King to the queen c4, check, which looks pretty close to mate, doesn't it? He has only one escape square, which is a3, which is probably what he couldn't even do that, because even if he did do that, bishop to b4, and I would have got my killer bishop badge, bastard. He does the pawn, queen takes, checkmate, supported by the bishop. So the main point of this game, and the reason why I'm showing it to you, is because you need to know what, just because you play an opening and decide to make it your opening, you need to know the ins and outs. Not only how to play it, but how to play against it when it gets played against you, because you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to come up against you like it did there. I didn't expect it to come up. I didn't plan for it to come up, but it did. So that's it. So it's just a short video, small review of a game. So thank you very much. Have a good day.